This podcast is proudly supported by the Bartronica Bar, the home of retro.
You can find Bartronica at 335 Flinders Lane in the heart of Melbourne CBD. It's half museum, half bar. Check them out on Facebook or Instagram and become part of the Bartronica community.
Here we go. It's the first episode of the Arcade Perfect podcast. And I'm one of your hosts, Daz. And with me as well, my co-host, Mr. Tagster.
The Tagster.
The Tagster. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, Daz. Not too bad at all, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. Who ever thought that, we would do a podcast together? How's that?
I know, we've got a UK background here and an Australian background. We should be able to bring a bit to the table, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Make it a bit interesting.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be awesome. And, it's all about arcade games. I mean, come on. You can't get better than that.
Yeah, that's right. So it's really the chase for the arcade perfect game. So
exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty much what this podcast is about. We will select one game per episode and play home ports of that game and choose the arcade perfect version. Well, in our opinions, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll probably talk a little bit about the games that we've bought over the years based on that game, and
exactly.
Review them and see which ones we think are the most arcade perfect today.
That's it. So hopefully you guys will jump on board and enjoy it. So anyway, firstly, we're going to talk about our arcade roots per se. So just a little bit of history, just a bit, just a little bit about us when we were in younger days. But I'll get Mr. Tagster to start off. How's that? Is that all right?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
What was your first arcade game?
I suppose playing my first ever arcade would have been back in Wales in the UK. So we used to go camping every year with my parents, and on the caravan park there was this little barn next to the little shop that you go to, and they had about probably 15 arcade machines in there. So that's probably where I spent a lot of the holiday. When the parents were just chilling out in the caravan, I'd be down at the arcade chucking in 10 pence pieces, not 20 cents coins. So so back then, and some of the games that I still remember, there's a few that I remember, was Space Invaders. So there was probably a couple of Space Invaders in there, and the Battle Zone as well.
Well, I've never played that actually in the arcades.
Yeah, so it was a big upright battle zone that had the scope that you look through, and back then I was probably about eight or nine, probably even younger than that, and I'm pretty sure you had to step up on a milk crate or step up on a box to be able to look through the scope and play it. So
that was vector based, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was built into the base. You had to step up and look through it. So I always knew it was a bit of a stretch, but I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun, that game. So that's probably my earliest memory, and then from there you go to the seaside in Wales or Blackpool, and they'd be full of arcades on the seafront there. So you had a good pick of the latest games, and every year you went, you were looking for the latest, newest releases to play. That's probably my earliest memories of playing arcade games.
Nice. Jeez, mine. Wow, I'm going back. Just from memory, I'd say the first arcade game I played was a local fish and chip shop, actually. If I remember, I think it was Elevator Action. I remember them having that there and going stupid over it. Just loved it. And funny enough, that the fish and chip shop's still there. It's next to my mother's house where I used to live, and it's funny they haven't had arcade games there for a long time. But it's every time I drive past and I look into that fish and chip shop, I just picture elevator action. But
Action and,
that's one of my earliest. I remember going to there's like a Maltese festival down here in Melbourne, and I remember there was heaps of arcade machines there as well, and I was probably about 8 as well. I remember playing Golden Axe for the first time, and
nice.
jeez, I mean, I'm going back. Golden Axe is probably the strongest memory I have of it at that place.
Mm.
And funny enough, it was a seaside carnival as well. Funny enough, but yeah, my strongest early memory is elevator action. So
Yeah, okay. Now I've played that in the last year for the first time, probably with my son, and yeah, he was pretty good at it. He kicked my ass at it, actually.
Great game,
And
great
he's only
game.
9. Yeah, it's a lot of fun and good music, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Good music on it, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's funny because I remember that chip shop used to get the best games. They had heavy barrel there as not heavy barrel, sorry, Midnight Resistance there. So I fell in
Yeah.
love
Did
with
it
that
have the
straight away.
rotating?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
had the rotary joysticks and everything. Fell in love with that
Yeah.
game straight away. But I'm digressing.
Yeah. What conversions were there of that game, Daz? Yeah, maybe that's for another episode.
Yeah, we'll leave that for another episode, I think, 'cause that's one of my favourites. But
Yeah.
we are going to talk about one of your favourites today, aren't we, Sean? Would you like to introduce the game?
All right. Okay. So today's the first episode. We're going to look at a game called Ghouls N Ghosts. So it's one of my personal favourites. I don't find it that hard. I've played it a hell of a lot, so
No, I find it difficult.
might be a little bit different to some people. But yeah, so Ghouls N Ghosts, Japanese version of it is Dai Makamura. So for anybody who recognises the import name of it, but yeah, it's a game that was on CPS-1 hardware. It came out in Japan in 1988. Yeah, and it was probably I think it was the second game in the Ghouls N Ghosts series.
Mhm.
Great music, great graphics, and that's probably what grabbed my attention. So I was very keen on graphics. Basically, if anything, I got graphics, I would get on and have a give it a go, and play it.
Mm.
So,
I was going to say, sorry, so I was going to say for 1988, that game looks fantastic.
It's great,
it just looks
still looks great now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It has not dated whatsoever.
No, I don't think it has. It's just those kind of Capcom graphics back then, similar to Final Fight and Forgotten Worlds and things like that. They all had a certain art style that I don't think it's really aged at all. It's brilliant.
I don't think, yeah.
So that's the game that we thought we'd pick for the first episode, and lots of others going to obviously come up. But we thought we'd talk about that. There's been a lot of versions.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a bit of history of different versions that came out, from the computers right through to consoles and handhelds. So we thought we'd have a look at all the different types, of those different types today, and give our opinions on them a little bit.
That's it. Yeah. So we will choose our favourite arcade perfect ports. Sean or Tagster, as I should say. We'll be looking at console ports, and I'll be looking at vintage computer ports. Now, there are many ports that we won't be covering because there's so many ports of this game. It's stupid. So. I mean, you have to give us a little bit of a break. There's only so much time we have to play test these games, and
to do it,
and not all games are done on real hardware as well, because some versions are harder to get than others. So, we have to play it through emulator, but it's no big deal. So
some expensive versions out there these days as well.
Exactly. But I actually wouldn't mind going first if you don't mind, Sean.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it, Daz.
Okay. Well, because it's still fresh in my mind. Yesterday I play tested the ZX Spectrum version. It was a 128K version. Now, look, if I never knew that game was an arcade game, and it was in its own right, it's just its own game on the ZX Spectrum, I'd say it'd be pretty good. But because it's actual port, it feels a little bit like the arcade game. The stages are different. they're different, but they're the same sort of thing. They don't really follow the same structure.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I found that the colors that they chose were pretty bad. Like there's a lot of yellow, and your character's yellow, and the background's yellow. And like, I love the Specky, but I think sometimes they make bad
Yeah.
choices with their colors.
Yeah.
So I found that a bit difficult to play, but I loved that it had the music playing during the game.
Okay. Well, that's yeah. Because looking at some of the ones I looked at, some of them didn't have music playing in the background, which
Yeah,
made it feel pretty weird.
that's right. So I'll give the Spectrum version that. Look, it played okay. Controls are fine. Look, it was great. I mean, look for its limitations, I think it's a good port. I
Mm.
wouldn't rave about it, but like I said, if I only had that version at home and I didn't really know better, I would
Yep.
enjoy it. So look, I actually think it's worth getting.
Yep.
So but I don't think it's the arcade perfect port. So on to you,
Maybe,
Sean.
yeah. Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
not. What did you get that version back in the day?
No. Well, the thing is, the Specky wasn't released here, so
Oh, of course. Yeah. In
yeah,
Australia.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
only time I saw the Specky was in Computer Video Games magazine. Yeah, when I used to buy in the early '90s, I'll be like, "Wow, what's this thing? Why would anyone like this?" It used to really get good marks, good scores for their games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
To
was,
look at it, maybe didn't look too hot when you looked at the screenshots, but
yeah.
from a color point of view, well, sometimes the graphics actually look pretty good to look at the
Yeah.
detail, but the actual colors I suppose, let it down. But
Mm, mm. But yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, that's it used to intrigue me when I saw it, and that's the reason why I ended up buying one. I got one imported, and I got one sent down from the UK. So
yeah, cool. Did you
anyway,
get the rub? Did you get the rubber key version?
no, I've got the plus two, the grey.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I've got the
Yeah.
grey.
Right.
I got 128K model, and I've got a nice little flash cart for it. So,
Yeah. Right. So
but anyway,
got the.
okay, Mr. Texter,
All right. Okay. Well,
what's your first
let me
review?
talk. Okay. Well, let me talk a little bit about the Mega Drive version because
Okay.
I think that's a pretty common one that a lot of people would relate to from back in the 90s, perhaps when they picked up a Mega Drive. It would have been one of those games that they would have perhaps played. So yeah, I picked up the Japanese import version. Yeah, Dai Makamura. I think it came out on the Mega Drive in '89. So I would have picked it up in '89 or maybe not 1990.
Mm.
Being a fan of the arcade, I don't think I ever played the arcade back then at that stage.
Me neither.
Uh,
Me neither.
Yeah, would have never seen one anywhere on holiday. It wasn't really a game that I saw anywhere in the arcades, but I love the look of it. I knew Ghosts and Goblins, and yeah, it just looked stunning back then compared to a lot of other games that were out. So I think the first thing I did, I saw the review of it in CMVG or Me Machines magazine, and looking at the screenshots just blew me away. So I had to get it as soon as I could. So I got the import one and probably paid through the nose for it. Yeah, and back then I thought it was arcade perfect. Yeah, dare I say it, arcade perfect.
Yeah.
But and back then I think it was the closest thing
Yeah.
that we thought we could get. You could get.
Well, it wasn't
So
far off though.
yeah, it wasn't far off, and I did a bit of reading up on this. I always used to, I don't know where I got the information from back when I had it, but it used to say on the title screen, reprogram games, Sega. And
Okay.
we always thought that they just grabbed the graphics from the arcade
Mhm.
and just reprogrammed the actual game with arcade graphics. But doing a bit more research on it, what happened was Sega um, actually Capcom didn't do the conversions for the Mega Drive or the Genesis,
Mm.
so Sega did that in house and actually fully reprogrammed it.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so they so actually they did a really good job.
They did.
Saying they didn't do the original code and the original graphics. They copied it and programmed it for their own machine. So so they did that for a few Capcom games, and yeah, back then you thought it was pretty much perfect. But it's only recently when you can look at other versions that you realise it actually perhaps wasn't. But it played perfectly well.
Hmm.
The box, the artwork, and everything was just stunning on the Japanese version. All the main elements of it were all there. But looking at it today, there's actually a few things that were not quite right. Some of the backgrounds were missing. Yeah, and a few little bits and bobs. Today we're a lot pickier about having it arcade perfect. So today you pick fault with it a bit more if you was really studying it. But back then, great game, and it was probably one of the best that you thought you could get hold of.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's still up there for me. So
yeah, one of the great Mega Drive games for sure.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So do you recommend it?
Look, I recommend the Mega Drive version. If you've got a Mega Drive, if you've got a UK, Australian, Japanese Mega Drive, yeah, it's still a great game. It's a close conversion to the arcade. The music's great on it. All of the main features are there. Yeah, I would still recommend it. Yeah, definitely. There's a few other versions that maybe are a little bit better that we'll talk about, but definitely, if you've got a Mega Drive, it's still a great game.
Nice. I agree. Okay, so I'll go next. Okay, I was quite surprised with this one. I played the Amstrad CPC version, and as far as I know, I think it's a 128K as well. Now, music at the start is brilliant. The AY chip is it absolutely kicks butt. It's very close to the C64 version. It sounds really good. Then you press start, and that's when it goes downhill for me. There is no music in the game. The only noise in the whole game is an explosion when you shoot the Grim Reapers. That's it. There's no noise when you jump. There's no noise of anything. And graphically, it's fine. But again, what lets it down is no what's the word? It's there's no hardware scrolling. It's all software. So there's no scrolling. It's just pretty much as soon as you get through half the screen, it sort of moves.
It jumps across.
It jumps across.
I saw that. Yeah.
And that's really, really annoying, and it makes the game a lot harder. And but even like simple animations, like his arms don't move when you shoot. The sword comes out of his guts. Like it's
right.
It's just
you don't see the arm move.
Yeah? No arm moving or anything, and it's like these little things that they could have just they didn't have to be so lazy. It actually could have been a great version. I mean, I like the look of it graphically better than the Spectrum version, but the Spectrum version was more playable.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because the music on the Amstrad was phenomenal at the start. So I was thinking, awesome. Yeah. I'm going to enjoy this because I mean half the experience is the music.
Oh, the music, isn't it as well? So was that the music that I thought sounded a little bit like a porn movie at the start?
Yeah.
It had me getting a bit of a groove on when I was listening to it the other night.
It's
kind of a little bit happy, funky type music initially. It's got a bit of a, but it goes into almost like Ghouls N Ghosts kind of thing. It's going, doesn't it?
It's by Tim Fullen. He also did the C64 version. And we'll talk about that later.
Did he do the ST and Amiga as well?
I think he did the Amiga one. Again, I'm going to mention them a bit later as well. But yeah, I mean, look, if you have an Amstrad, I'd say stay away from it. I wouldn't bother. I mean, if it's free, you're going to get a ROM. If you're going to play it on emulator, yeah, that's fine. But don't go out of your way and buy a copy. It's just not. It's really, really not worth it. I mean, It really sucks in that way. I mean, just hearing the few explosions here and there, and the way the screen moves, and it was a pain. It was a pain.
Does it just not feel like it captures the original arcade?
No, it doesn't. And again, if you didn't know better again, and that was that was the game, and it came out exclusively for the Amstrad, I still would be disappointed. Because it just wasn't right. I mean, I'd be walking and the Grim Reapers would just come out of the ground and I'll get hit. I mean, it doesn't even give you a chance, and poorly programmed. If only they went to the effort as much as the music, I think it would have been a great port.
Yeah, right. Yeah, with that intro music.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my view on the Amstrad
take
CPC
on the
version.
On the Amstrad, yeah. And back on the cover of the game, back when you'd have bought it from the shop, you'd have had the cover on there. On the back of the cover, you'd have had I don't know about Australia, but in the UK, you always used to get the Amstrad, the Specky, and the C64, maybe, and the Amiga or ST.
Yeah.
Screenshots on the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the same in Australia where you used to look at it and then go, well, I'm going to have to go home with this today.
Yeah.
Damn, I wish I was going away with the Amiga version.
The Amiga version. It was always the Amiga version. Always, yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. That's why I used to love buying System 3 games, because I know that was a C64 version. That's it.
Yeah, it was great, yeah.
All right, okay, go for it, Mr. Tagster.
Okay, all right. So next one then, we'll talk a little bit about the next Super Graphics version. Okay, so in the UK, the Super Graphics was not that well known, I would say. It was definitely seen as a bit of a high-end import machine that had a pretty hefty price tag back in the day when it came out. Luckily, one of my friends had the money to buy one. He also had a Neo Geo, so Super Graphics wasn't too much of a splash in the ocean for him. So so he had a Super Graphics. So luckily, every Saturday we used to catch up, and when he got that, Ghouls N Ghosts was one of his first games that he one of 5 that came out on it that he picked up. I don't know if he would have bought it if he'd have realised it was so short-lived with 5 games. But yeah, it was a great looking game. And for me, I'm into the artwork. You picked up the CD case. It come in a nice cardboard sleeve with some great Japanese artwork on there. You opened it up, you got the little kind of hue card that was especially for the Super Graphics. You put it in, and I suppose comparing that to the Mega Drive, that was probably the closest thing that you would look at the time if you was comparing things, because the Mega Drive version was already out. So we used to look at both of those, and kind of compare the two. And I think there was just something a little bit more special about the Super Graphics version. The colour palette was perhaps not quite as good, but there was some graphical details in the Super Graphics one that were missing from the Mega Drive one. So it just made it feel a little bit more special and a bit more like the arcade. And the thing with the Super Graphics one was you only got 5 continues. So with the Mega Drive, you had unlimited, play. We all know Ghouls N Ghosts is renowned for perhaps being a hard game. With a Mega Drive, you could continue and keep continuing with the Super Graphics. If you ever wanted to see what the end of the Super Graphics game looked like, you've got to go through it twice, not just once, twice on 5 credits.
That's insane.
So that was pretty tough going back then when we were reasonably youngsters trying to get there. It was a tough call, but I don't think I got there at the time, but I think my friend who owned it, finally got there. It was quite an achievement to finally say I've clocked it on 5 credits back then.
And we had a lot more patience when we were kids too, though. That helps.
We did, I think we did. Yeah, we would stick to something for a lot longer, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
It cost you, cost expensive. You didn't, unless you get a copy of something, you got your money's worth out of something if you bought it, didn't you? So, Did you ever experience the Super Graphics version, Daz?
Only via emulator. and I was impressed. I found that the characters were a bit bigger. It just felt bigger, like more lively. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, compared to the Mega Drive, I think the
Yeah,
sprites were
just a little bit
you could
bigger.
handle slightly bigger
Yeah.
sprites and more detail in the background and whatnot. Yeah, I think the intro to the game was on there with the Mega Drive one. I don't think it had some of the introduction to
Yeah, I
it.
don't think it did either. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it had a little bit more to it. Maybe lost a little bit in the colours slightly, but yeah, it's definitely if you'd have had a super graphics back when it came out, you'd have been pretty happy.
Yeah, I think you'd be wrapped.
You got an arcade perfect version of it, you know.
Yeah.
Perhaps nowadays we look at it and it isn't, but back then you would for sure.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So you would recommend it?
No, I'd recommend it. Well, if you've got a super
If you can
graphics,
afford it, yeah.
If you've got a super graphics, you're probably going to pick it up anyway. Otherwise, you've only got 4 games in your collection.
Yeah, it's not really worth buying a system for, though. Yeah.
No, for sure. No, definitely.
Ah, nice. All right, cool. All right, my next one was one I grew up with, and I played this before I even knew there was an arcade version, and that was the C64 version. I absolutely loved it, and back then I would actually finished it. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. The patience I had, and again, what stole it for me was the music. The music is just absolutely stunning, and is in my top 10 of favorite C64 tunes. It was made by Tim Follin as well, and it's absolutely amazing. The sampling in there, it's like sampling of wind and rain and mixed in with the music. It's just unbelievable. The graphics, yeah, the C64 graphics. You know what I mean? Arthur looks a little bit small. The characters are a little bit small, but look, scrolls perfectly. Graphics are fine for what it is. The colors were they're perfect for like I said for what the machine can do. I think it's fine. Again, you know, like just like the arcade version, it gets really hard, and but yeah, for your 8-bit vintage computer ports, it's your arcade perfect. You're not going to get closer than the 64 version personally for the 8-bit anyway. I think it's great, and I'm not saying it because I am a B64 lover of that machine. It's just because it is that much better, and it is amazing. I remember it got 90 plus scores back in the day as well. But yeah, but then I remember playing the arcade version. I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. And then the Mega Drive, I'm like, far out. Is this what it's supposed to look like? And when I went back to it like a few years later, and I'm like, oh, that's ugly, you know. But now I appreciate it again, you know. But But yeah, look, if you want your 8-bit computer versions, you go for the C64 version. And we will play the C64 version's music at the end of the podcast. So
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty well known that the music's good for the C64 version of it, and also the Amiga as well. I think got a good review as far as the music goes.
Yeah, I mean the Amiga one's actually quite good, but you know what? Special mention to the Atari ST version. I think it was better. I think the Atari ST version's better than the Amiga one.
Okay.
I wouldn't normally say that. And again, I think the music was better on the Atari ST. The Amiga one was different. The music was different on that.
Yeah, they did really change it up, didn't they? They didn't back then. They didn't seem to stick to let's just try to copy the arcade perfectly. It was like they just had a free reign to do something totally different.
Yeah,
as long as it was a bit creepy, it was Ghouls N Ghosts. It was Ghouls N Ghosts.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but when I heard the Atari ST version's music, it was like the Amstrads, funny enough, or the C64s, and it just felt better and it sounded better. So but special mention to Atari ST. Go Atari for once.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, was you one of the poor Atari owners, Daz, or was you an Amiga owner?
I wasn't neither. I always had a C64, and then I went straight to a Mega Drive. So
Right.
But
Okay.
but I do own an Amiga 1200 now, so I always grew up with
Yeah.
Amiga. All my mates had Amigas, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
I
the
was,
same here actually in the
yeah.
UK. It
Hmm.
seemed like the Amiga was the way to go. Most of my friends had Amigas.
Yeah.
Couple of less popular people had STs.
Yeah, the ST was the poor man's Amiga. But yeah, no, I won't
Yeah.
go there. Look, they're all got their
They're all
charm.
good, aren't they? In their own way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody wins a prize.
That's exactly right. But yes, I do recommend the C64 version. Get out there and play it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
So, okay, Mr. Tagster, this is the
All
one
right.
we've been waiting for, isn't it?
Okay. All right. Well. All right. So look, I've gone through a few Japanese versions, and back in the day, I thought the Mega Drive was the best version, it was ever out there. But while I was importing the Japanese Mega Drive version, and a lot of us in the UK were playing those, and around the world who were importing games, the Japanese had a pretty nice little hidden secret going on, I think, and they had something called the Sharp X68000. I didn't know anything about this machine until a few years ago. Really, it wasn't that long ago that it really surfaced as far as how good this was, and it was really a computer, a Japanese computer, ran off a disc, and they were well known for absolutely great arcade conversions, or arcade perfect, should I say, conversions.
Yeah.
Was it arcade perfect?
Okay,
That's the
perfect.
question. Yeah. So yeah, look, I wish I could buy one of these machines. I think
They're not cheap.
it's going to be on my bucket list. I think to perhaps get one day. I don't know, but I don't know how much it does. Do you know any idea how much they are?
I'm actually looking now. Geez, well, the games are not cheap, that's for sure. You want Final Fight? You're looking at $195.
Ouch.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I can't see not one computer. Yeah, just use an
Yeah,
emulator.
they're pretty high. I think they're pretty high end collectibles, aren't they? And
Yeah, they are.
pretty unknown to the general people who are perhaps into just console collecting and things like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like the next level of affordability or level of getting into the hobby, I suppose. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I didn't even know this thing existed when I got the Mega Drive version. I'm glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have wanted to feel disappointed with that Japanese import Mega Drive version that I just bought. But the 68,000 version is it's amazing. So yeah, it takes a little bit of loading up at the start, whereas the cartridge versions are pretty instantaneous. But as far as the graphics go and things like that, this is the one machine that literally ripped it off the arcade machine and put it onto disc. So whereas everything else was reprogrammed and redrawn.
I actually just found it.
I
found the 68,000 version of Ghouls N Ghosts.
Yeah.
On eBay, 300 US.
300 US. Wow.
Yeah, there you
Not
go.
far off get a PCB for that. Huh?
That's exactly right. Sorry, resume.
Yeah. So I want this version, but yeah. So look, I haven't bought it, but I've got it on an emulator, and that's at this stage that's the only way I can test it out and try it or look at it on YouTube. It's one of those dream machines, I suppose. So and the cool thing about this, not only does it have absolutely perfect graphics that are ripped from the actual machine, it plays the same. And then you look at you listen to the sound of it, and this machine, you could bolt on different sound units to it. So I'm not an expert at it, but there was different versions I think you could get, which is like a Roland sound system or a Yamaha. And you depending on the plugin you had, you would get a totally different musical score throughout the game. So I was listening last night to both of those versions, and it sounded like you got an orchestra in your ear as you was playing it or watching it. It was unbelievable. So not only are the graphics arcade perfect, the music I just enjoyed that even more than the arcade. You could hear every little cymbal or drum beat.
Okay.
It just, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, really, really good music. I could just listen to it all night. The whole of the music throughout the game. So yeah, it's really, really good. So yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? The things that you can't have, you want the most.
That's it, exactly. I mean, you might be lucky. I mean, I was lucky twice this year. I mean, I scored a MSX2 reasonably cheap and a
Yep.
Vectrex for a bargain price. So
Right.
that were my two holy grails, and that's it now for me. So
You're done.
you never know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if I start looking seriously when the wife's not, looking over my shoulder, you never know
Yeah,
what might happen.
exactly.
Not another parcel. Oh dear. Yeah, but look, if you've got a 68,000, you'll have already scoped that game out and bought it, I imagine. But for anybody who's not aware of that machine,
Yeah.
go and have a look into it a little bit, and I think you'll be blown away. Other games, we won't talk about other games today, but there's some other great, really great arcade perfect conversions on it as well.
Yeah, Chase HQ.
So, yeah, oh wow, actually that one, yeah, we won't talk about that one too much, but it
Yeah,
is
I reckon,
very
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But there is a lot that are good. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, have a little look into that, and you might start thinking about wanting to get one.
Nice. So
Yeah,
that is your arcade perfect.
For me, that's the version of choice. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you want to have something a bit special, if you want to have something that's arcade perfect, that's not just a main ROM. You want a physical copy of the game. It's definitely a pretty special version to own.
Well, for 300 US, you should hope so.
You probably never want to take it out of the box.
No, exactly. But before we go on to our next bit, we'll have a listen to some of the music from the game. How's that?
Sounds good.
Cool. Here we go. Let's go to the Facebook wall. Tagster was awesome enough to ask the wall a question, and the question was: any memories, merchandise, or interesting things you would like to share about Ghouls and Ghosts?
Yep.
And our first person was Mr. Joshua Lane. Thanks, Josh, for jumping on. Josh says, I just remember being furious every time I stopped playing Rage Quit. The game makes me mad at just thinking about it. Great game, though. And I'm assuming that was you, Tagster. Says, a joystick joypad breaker. Mr.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Jody Robbs, thanks for joining us here, Jody. Jody? Jody. Silly Darren. Jody. Yeah, it's too effing hard, laugh out loud. And Tagster again, I was kind of expecting this to be a common reply about this game.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Go for it, Sean.
Okay, so Cameron Davies, he said, my main memory of Ghouls and Ghosts was that when
On
Neighbours.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
so I don't know what it was like in Australia, but the UK loved Neighbours back in the day. But I didn't know this one. Yeah, back on Neighbours, Todd kept wagging off school to go and play it. He was obsessed with it. And then his dad was mad at him for playing video games. Screwed Todd's dad from Neighbours. Which I thought that was a pretty good one. I never
never knew
knew
about
anything
that.
about that. He put, fun fact, for years, when anyone played a computer game on Neighbours, they played the music from Magic Carpet.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
And I've heard of that game, but I can't recall what it was.
I can't remember it either, but I know the game. It was a PC game.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And it said also from Cameron, he said, fun bonus fact, Todd's dad from Neighbours later ended up as Charles Whitmore on Lost. Further proving that literally every single show or movie made in the last 30 years has someone from Lost on it. And I knew instantly to hate him because of what kind of person stops their kids from playing video games.
Oh, Gunter.
Dear.
Gunter.
Yeah, and I
Cameron.
put how to be an unpopular dad.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Go for it. Next one.
Okay, so we've got Shane
Buzatil.
Busatil.
Buzatil.
Can't remember how many times I lost my temper with this game. Lol.
Museum.
Yeah, so yeah, a common thing there.
Yeah, very common. Mr. Matthew Gawley. I have fond memories going into Safeway at Sunshine, being given a whole bunch of 20-cent coins and playing Ghouls and Ghosts until my parents finished shopping. I could never get past the second level back then. I wonder what they end up doing with the machine. It's true. Probably in the dumpster, cut up.
Yeah.
No, I'm assuming that's you, Sean. You say, how lucky was you to get to play Ghouls and Ghosts whilst your parents did the boring shopping chores? Wonder if I was just got bored or dedicated. Wonder if it was just a bored. Oh yeah, I think it'd be dedicated bored.
Yeah. Dedicated arcade machine.
Yeah.
What worked a lot? What
Yeah,
do you
I
think?
doubt that. Would have just been a LAI swapping the board. Okay, it's me. That's right. Paul Hornetiski. Okay, read your post, and yes, please mention these in your podcast. Photos of Ghouls and Ghosts for the arcade, console, and mobile. A great game that is very hard to play well. Well, we did. I don't know about the mobile one.
I have played it actually. Can mention it a little bit if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit about that.
Okay,
after.
cool. Well, yeah, a special mention too is the Master System version. That's actually a great 8-bit port. I mean, a lot of flicker, but that's the Master System. You can't avoid that. But
yeah,
actually,
it's actually pretty good box art for the Master System there.
considering, yeah. But yeah, I actually played that one before the Mega Drive, so yeah. No, it was a great port, and it's different too, because there's like stores, there's like shops and stuff. They changed it around, so yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And
All right.
that's it for the wall.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
Paul, for that one.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for having a bit of input into it. I think I don't know about you, Daz, but I thought maybe a lot of people would say it was a nightmare game to play, too hard or whatever. But there's a few interesting stories on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite good.
No, nice one.
Yeah, it's very good.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay. All right, Sean, you got some tidbits, haven't you?
All right, so let's have a little look. So I've got a few other little things. So I think back in the day when you wanted that arcade perfect version at home on your computers or your consoles, you used to rely pretty heavily on the magazines to give you some idea of if it was going to be hot or not, or a good game to chuck your paper and money at. So there's a few little snippets from a few early 80s or late 80s and early 90s magazines. So Zap 64, they gave it a gold medal. Crash gave it a Crash Smash. Yeah, Crash Smash.
Is there an Amstrad one there?
No, there isn't.
I told you.
Yeah, they gave it a steaming turd. Sorry, Amstrad lovers. CMVG gave it a CMVG hit. Yeah, and Megatech gave it a hyper game. So, yeah, I think overall it did pretty well as far as the the home ports and the console versions went. Looking at stats and averages, and I don't want to bore you with this, but it scored between 88 to about 94% across pretty much most platforms. So yeah, as far as conversions and things went, it was a pretty good game, really. Yeah. A few other things. So what else have we got as far as conversions go? There's a few things that we didn't mention was when the character gets hit. It's a bit different in this game compared to a lot of others. Made it a little bit entertaining. Dash, do you, any thoughts on what happens when Arthur got hit? I'm going to test you out a little bit here.
Well, his armor comes off.
His armor came off, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And then what happens if he got hit by a magician?
Oh, you turn to a ducky.
Yeah, you turned into a duck.
Yeah.
So I think you turned into a duck if you got your armor on.
And if you don't have your armor, you turn to an old man with a walking stick.
Turn into an old man. That's right. Yeah. Okay. And there's a few little Easter eggs in the game as well. So as you get to the end of the level, if you push up as the key lands on you, it says nice catch. And also there's a couple of glitches in the game as well, where there was an invisible ladder on stage 1. If you jumped and pushed up as you landed at the top of the ladder on level 1, you actually climbed up an invisible ladder into the sky. So there's a few little Easter eggs and a few little glitches here and there in the game, but generally it was a pretty solid game.
That's it. So we're done.
All right.
We're done until next episode. How's that?
All right. So yeah, I hope you guys liked it. Hopefully you like Ghouls N Ghosts. You might learn a little bit more about it. Learn a few different things as we've gone through today.
But yes. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. You can find our future episodes, obviously. I will publish them on the Retro Domination podcast, Retro Domination website, sorry. So there will be a home for it, and also Podbean. So, yeah, how's that?
Yep. Yes, all right, for a first episode.
It is.
Refine and have a little play as we go, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And look, if you've got any suggestions for games that you think were arcade perfect conversions or things you'd like us to talk about, then please share it on the Facebook page.
Yes, that's it. Okay, so yeah, we have no idea what our next game will be, but
give us some ideas. We might look at that, or we might totally ignore it and choose our own.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so and also a big shout out to the support from everyone. Been great, especially the RD boys. Thanks, guys. Mr. Aaron from Press Play on Tape. So yeah, a big shout out to also the other podcasts, Geekdom United, Press Play on Tape, and Retro Domination, which I'm also part of. So, and with that, Sean, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, look, for me, I love the Australian podcast as well. I'm a big fan of coming from the UK, the 10 Pence Arcade
yes,
podcast.
Of course.
So, I love Mr. Marland and Sean Holly's podcasts, and I always look forward to seeing any one of those. So it's inspired me to get involved in it a little bit, and I hope people enjoy it, and long term we'll play around with it, and hopefully everybody likes listening to the podcast and has something to say about it. Good to say about it. So. All right, Dad. Yeah. Well, we'll catch up again soon, and we'll fire up another game and review some of the different parts of it, and give our opinions on it again.
That's it. Yeah, guys, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be finishing off the episode with the C64 theme of Ghouls N Ghosts. So, au revoir, everyone. Bye.
All right, see you later, guys.